Welcome to this Flex training video. I'm your host, Markus Merritt. Now, these Flex training videos, in addition to being posted on YouTube, are also linked in our Flex community or online user forums. After you've watched this video, if you have any questions or comments, please go to that article and post them there so that you can join with the rest of the community and discussing and growing together. Now, in today's video, we are going to talk about the numbers, the math for the on-hand and allocated or owned quantities on serial units. In the move from Flex 4 to Flex 5, there's been some changes to how some of this math has been displayed, and that has caused some confusion among some customers. Now, the problem on this is that we believe the math in Flex 4 was flawed and needed to be fixed, and the fix is in Flex 5. Now, the other problem with this is it was so obvious to us of the need to update this that it happened so early in the development. This was before we were regularly communicating with customers on the changes and things going on, before it was accessible to customers, and so it has not been communicated very well. And for both the confusion that caused by not communicating it and that change, we apologize. And so I wanted to make this video to explain our thought process on what goes on during these different points of math. Okay, so for this, I'm going to use this JBL VRX speaker that I have in my system, and currently in my on-hand and allocated or owned quantity. Now, we commonly use the allocated term because if I had some allocated to Vegas, it isn't what I own. The owned would be them combined together. But many of our customers only have one location, and for that, then owned is a perfectly logical term as well. So I'm at 8 of 8 in this, and we're going to look at what happens when I do things like moving it to presumed missing, out of commission, etc. Okay. Now I have one unit of that over here. So I'm going to go to that unit and manually change it. Okay. For this, I'm going to manually change it to presumed missing. Okay. Presumed missing generally would happen by having something not come back and you finalizing the manifest without returning it and saying, yes, I understand things are going to be marked presumed missing. But we can also do that manually. So I'm going to go ahead and do that manually, and we're going to look at how that updates the math. Okay. So in this, I'm going to go ahead and reload. And we'll see here that we've only changed our on-hand quantity. And we've got our 1 over here in our presumed missing. The key on this is basically we've not given up on this piece of gear. We're hoping to get it back. The general expectation is that maybe on one of our own shows, we left it in a hallway, we can go track it down, or maybe on a rental to some other customer of yours, they didn't return it, you reminded them of the need to get that returned, and they figure out where it is, it got mixed in with their gear, and they bring it back to you. Okay? So at the point of presumed missing, though we know it's not available for things, we haven't given up on it, and so we don't want to change what it is in our owned. Okay? Now, when it comes to where that piece of gear, you decide it's not coming back, it's gone, whether, the customers, lost it completely, got stolen from a facility or venue you were at, you're not going to get it back. You're going to take one of a few ways to mark that off. We're going to do the example of it was from a rental customer you did a dry rental to, and so they were like, yeah, sorry, we can't find it, and so I guess we got to pay to replace it. Okay, and so in that, we're going to go back to the item, and we're going to change it from presumed missing to marked as sold. You invoice them for that replacement cost of that piece of equipment, and you then are going to count it marked as sold. They bought the piece of gear by not being able to replace it. Okay. In here, we can set sold date and sold price, but as far as the math, that's not important, so I'm going to leave that. By marking it as sold, we're going to change both those numbers. Okay, we have both of them down because now we do not expect this coming back. Now, obviously, sold also can be times when you just decide to retire some gear and you sell it to somebody, whether that's to an employee or whether to another company, whatever. Okay, anytime I sell gear, I am not expecting it coming back. So both our on-hand and own quantities will go down. Okay, now we're going to check a different option. Okay. I'm going to go here and undo our sold. Change this. We still see that it says that. I can again manually override this and say, nope, never mind. And on this, I'm going to mark it as out of commission. Now, there is a way to just go to this thing here and mark it as out of commission, but I generally think the best practice for marking things out of commission is to make maintenance log. And so even though this is only for a demo on the math, I'm still going to do that because I want to, make sure that's how people do it. Okay. So we're going to say not working. I'm not going to be very detailed here. We're going to say that I need to send it for a third-party repair. I don't have anybody in-house who can do it. And the key thing here is I'm going to then mark it as OOC or out of commission. Okay. We're going to go ahead and add that here. We're going to come back and reload. And again, similar to the presumed missing, I'm expecting to get this back. I'm expecting to be able to repair it and to return it to my stock. So we see that I've got 1 on the out of commission here, and that I'm showing 7 of 8 in my on-hand versus allocated quantities. Okay, it is not available, it's not usable, but I'm expecting to get it fixed and to get it back. Okay, and we see that's kind of a consistent thing where our out of commission and our presumed missing numbers are on this list of the summary of our statuses of where things are, because both of those are set where we're expecting, or hoping at least, to get them back. And so we want to be paying attention to those numbers. Once we've moved it to sold, then I don't need to know that number anymore because I'm not expecting it back. So it's not as critical to be able to see that. Okay. In this, let's say I ship it out for my third-party repair. And they go to me, oh, this thing is toast and it's going to take this giant amount of rework. And that's 80% of the cost of buying a brand new one. And you're like, well, then I'm just going to buy a brand new one. That's not worth it. Okay. And so instead, we're going to go to this item. And we're going to come in here and override this to be decommissioned. Okay. Decommissioned is this item is so damaged, it is not worth repairing. We're just going to retire it. Okay, so we're going to go here and mark this decommissioned. Okay, in this, you'll see that overrides it still says it's out of commission, but it overrides it in our status here that it's now decommissioned. And when we come back to this and reload, we will show. Now, it does still show this out of commission, and so I do a lot of times find that I maybe still want to resolve that because I don't want to see this number, but we do see on our quantities, we show ourselves now 7 of 7. I am not expecting this piece of gear back. I have retired it. It is gone. Okay. On our serial units, we still have 8, but that one there is decommissioned and out of commission. It's not coming back. Like I said, I a lot of times would like to maybe resolve that saying, well, I'm not expecting it back, so I want to consider this resolved. I would actually do this normally through a maintenance action and mark that I was going to decommission it. I'm going to do that for quick here. And still, again, we're showing our 7 of 7 and out of commission now 0. Okay, so that's that key thing within these 4 statuses, is that in the out of commission and presumed missing, we're expecting or hoping to be able to get this piece of gear back and to get it into stock and working. Whereas when we move it to decommissioned and to sold, I'm not expecting to get them back, and so I don't want to count them in my stock. Okay, so that's that key thing. I'm not going to bring up what was different in Flex 4 because this is what makes sense to me, and so I just want to implore people, do what you can. Look at these numbers in Flex 5. The numbers are better, the math is better, the interface is better. Get yourself more comfortable there so that when we get to that point of that full transition, you're more comfortable. Now, the one thing with this I just want to bring up, because it is commonly asked among people, is in my serial units tab, if I end up getting to where I've sold or decommissioned a lot of these, it starts to feel messy when I'm looking at the serial units tab. Okay. And so the one thing I just want to comment, which is not about the math, but just about the same kind of topic, is what I will recommend to people if you're doing those things a lot and you want to clean up this list. Now, it's not too bad if it's 1 of 8, but if it gets to 4 of 8, you're like, half of these are even worthless, right? Or if you get to where you have a bigger page and it's, scrolling off because you have 80, but 40 of 80 have been sold or decommissioned, again, that gets messy, that gets harder to deal with. So what I tend to recommend to people is to go to the reports and then to run either or both the sold report or the decommissioned report to get information. Now, both of those are going to require you to set a date reference. Now, if this is the first time you're doing it, maybe that time you just want to say from the beginning of my system till, recently. Once you start doing this, then I tend to recommend setting a regular interval every 6 months, every year, where you then pull that data out, figure out what's going on. And then now that you've got that report that you can save that file for kind of archive, then go into those items and delete them. Now you could just go to the item here. You can select whatever ones there are and then delete them. It's going to delete the selected serial units. One note, importantly, is when you delete these, they're not gone. They're just moved to an is deleted section. So you can recover them. Let's say if it was a presumed missing that you then marked as sold and then later it showed back up, you can move it back over there and be able to reclaim it. But I tend to find that is the point. When you only do this a little bit, it's not really worth stressing this, but if you've started to decommission and sell a lot of gear, I'm a big fan of running those reports to have kind of a history of that data and then cleaning them out of your system and moving on. So with that, again, please make sure to visit the Flex community where this will be linked if you have any questions or comments. And as always, you can reach out to support@flexrentalsolutions.com for assistance. Please go to our help center.flexrentalsolutions.com for additional guides and instructions. And for comments on these training videos, ideas for future videos, or to just reach out to me directly, email to training@flexrentalsolutions.com. Thanks.